Guten Tag. Greetings. Hallo Falava. This is Dr. Snow Brown of Crystal Kingdom Church TV, CKC TV Facebook. I hope you're all having a lovely morning or evening, late evening. I certainly am going to have one, hopefully. It's probably about another half an hour before the 28th of September 2022. When I what? When I shall celebrate my 50th. Half a century. I am grateful. I'm grateful to make it. Thanks to God. And also to our Lord Jesus Christ. But anyway, what I really am going to do right now is read you a few of my postings in German. And this one is actually for Bundeskanzler Olaf Scholz. It's been a while since I last caught up with all of you. We just restarted the 150 Days War program. That's okay. I didn't even bother to do any of it. I prayed the so-called special prayer that's posted in the CKC TV Facebook 13 times. And I also prayed the other prayer, or the chant 3 times. So now I'm going to read this. This is an old email. It's like an SOS email to his Chancellor, Olaf Scholz. I think my birthday wish was to receive 1,000 Nazi soldiers. And I'm afraid your Chancellor here, Olaf Scholz, that things are not, the arbitrary dictatorships are still happening. On and off. And the government of New Zealand doesn't care. Nor does the criminal organization in question, especially the white niggers, the KKK, and the MMBs, the red one. So I'm going to, hopefully, when I read this request that I made to you, in English, of course, but of course I have translated it in German, so I'm going to make an effort to read it to you in German. I'll admit, I am not a full German. My last name is German, Treviranus. That I'm proud to say that I am, but I'm half part indigenous. I was born in the islands, born in Samoa, but we immigrated here on the 17th of December 1982 with my beloved family. There were 6 of us. I think my other second sibling was living in the islands. But 6 of us came on the ship on that date, 40 years ago. So I was about 10 years old at the time. So I've been a New Zealand citizen, so I thought, all these years. But now that I'm reaching the milestone of 50, I'm actually a German noble. At this age now. My intellectual property, well, it's a private meek monarch, but it is actually a private company. It's a private company. Yeah. So without further ado, meine Damen und meine Herren, herzlich willkommen. Herzlicher Geburtstag zu mich, das ist gut. 50 Geburtstag. Gruß Bundeskanzler Olaf Scholz. In den letzten Wochen und Monaten hatte ich die mühselige Aufgabe, meine Facebook-App auf meinem Handy zu deinstallieren und neu zu installieren. Nur damit ich auf mein privates Facebook zugreifen konnte. Es ist schmerzhaft, hier zu leben und diese Kriminellen zu haben, die ihre kriminellen, schädlichen Protokoll ausnutzen, hier wo sie ständig meine Facebook direktieren, meine Videos betreffen und stören Post, entweder durchlöschen, entfernen von Symbolen oder anderen der Einstellungen. Drinnen mein Facebook, es ist schrecklich. Ja, sehr, sehr schrecklich. Heute, 3.9.22, schickte mir Dwayne Dog Chapman zum allerersten Mal ein Video von ihm und seiner Braut Franzi oder Frau. Teil 1, beim Heiraten, das ich wirklich nicht teilen wollte. Wirklich. Nicht teilen wollte. Auf meinem CKCTV Facebook jedenfalls. Ich drückte auf das Liebessymbol und beschloss, es bis zum Ende anzusehen, ohne es auf meinem Facebook zu posten. Das nächste, was passierte, bemerkte ich, es war Folter, als ich versuchte, nach unten zu scrollen, mein Facebook, und entdeckte, dass jemand mich tatsächlich verfolgte. Im Hintergrund kontrollierte. Mein nach unten scrollen, das ich konnte immer nur 1 bis 3. Videos nach unten scrollen, das hieß es plötzlich nach dem 3. Video, dass etwas schief gelaufen ist, dass meine Internetverbindung getrennt wurde. Versuchen Sie es erneut. Das war das erste Mal, dass dies jemals passiert ist. Ich schickte meine Beschwerden sofort an Facebook und blockierte die Facebook-Seiten von Dwayne Dog Chapman, Mr. Chapman, und seine Frau Franzi. Dann habe ich meine Facebook-App neu installiert und ich konnte immer noch nicht auf mein Facebook zugreifen. Dann gegen 17 Uhr, 24 Uhr, erschienen alle meine Videos wieder. Ja, wieder. Und ich schreibe Ihnen noch einmal dringend. Exzellenz, Bundeskanzler Olaf Scholz, für Ihre Intervention bezüglich meiner Bitte für 1000 Nazi-Soldaten. Da ich erneut Folterungen und Grausamkeiten ausgesetzt bin, da die Kriminellen haben direkt im Hintergrund ein Netzwerk von außen innen mein Facebook um die Einstellungen und Funktionen meines Facebook zu überschreiben, um es zu direktieren, um mir Lektionen zu erteilen oder mich zu disziplinieren zu. Meine Kommentare oder Predigten auf meinem Facebook, insbesondere KKK, im Namen der MMB-Kriminellen unter meiner Adresse. Nochmals wieder vielen Dank, Ihr Bundeskanzler. Ich hoffe, Sie werden 1000 Nazi-Soldaten, 1000 einsetzen. Hochachtungsvoll, El Merilia Treviranus, Dr. Schnee Brown oder Dr. Snow Brown. Ironischerweise heirateten meine lieben Eltern am 3. September 1971. Stellen Sie sich vor, KKKs kopieren immer die Anliegen, Daten, Ideen oder Nummern, Namen, Stille und so weiter. Viel Glück und Segen in Höhe und Fühler erhalten, ohne den langen Weg zu gehen, um sie sich zu verdienen, auf dem richtigen Weg, ja, auf dem richtigen Weg, whatever, entsprechend ihren eigenen Verdiensten, anstatt Abkürzungen zu nehmen über verinstallierte blaupose Antworten von den KKKs, wo sie nur Geld bezahlen und ihnen Gewinnkombinationen oder Gewinnformeln gegeben werden, um zu bekommen, was sie wollen, ohne die Antworten selbst herauszufinden. Wie zum Beispiel in einer großen Prüfung zu schummeln, I think it's schummeln, so wie sie, wo sie sind gegeben, alle die Antworten die Nacht zuvor ihrer Abschlussprüfungen am nächsten Tag. Also, wie können Sie jemals für irgendetwas dankbar sein, wenn Sie nicht auf die richtige Weise verdient haben, indem Sie gelernt haben, den langen Weg zu gehen, anstatt Ihren Weg im Leben zu betrügen und zu manipulieren? Indem sie oder Benutzungsstellen von gesegneten, rechtschaffenden Anliegen, Christen, die sich ihre Segnungen oder Ideen verdient haben. Auf dem richtigen Weg, langer und harter Weg. Ja, zum Wohl, ja, jawohl. In der Zwischenzeit benutzen oder stellen die KKKs von gesegneten Anliegen, Christen, um voranzukommen, herein das Leben dauert nie. Wie es sich später zu Pudding findet, war sie auf die falsche Weise gesegnet sind über Satan, wenn sie immer auf der falschen Seite der Spur sind. Die Lektion, die KKKs lernen müssen, ist das Drecksache. Die lügen, betrügen und stehlen immer tot oder verflucht enden. Ja, verflucht enden. Es ist eine Tatsache des Lebens. Ja, jawohl. Es ist eine Tatsache des Lebens. Ich hoffe, das Marinekorps nimmt etwas von dieser Predigt. Die ist Missbraucher und Missbraucher niemals deine militärischen, die digitalen Fähigkeiten gegen Terroristen, um mir Lektionen zu erteilen. Ich verdiene es nicht in meinem eigenen Christo-Kingdom, denn ich bin es frei, dich auszuschalten. Und mein Herr wird dich beim seinem zwei Kommen abschlachten. Stell dir Schneeschafen und den Schneehirten für Marshmallows essen. Halleluja, Halleluja, Ehre sei Gott. Zu Gott die Ehre. In Jesus Namen. Amen. Archangel Warren and the Holy Ghost family. Dr. Snur Brown, die natürlich Edelpastorin. Vielen Dank, vielen Dank. Well, that was my request. Your Excellency, Chancellor Olaf Scholz, I hope that you have heard. I have done my damnedest and my best, the very best that I could read in German. But I mean, I'm 40. Ich bin 50. I'm 50 years old. Now, of course, I never grew up in Germany. But I know that if I grew up in Germany, in the last 40 odd years, say in Wiesbaden, not far from Frankfurt, and I attended, Universität, or Gymnasium. Was passiert? I think that I probably would have been a fluent, a proud German, a noble German person. And there's no doubt that my German ancestors would have been very proud of your achievements as well. Because probably my kingdom, just as I am at the moment, that was born in this country, probably would have been born in Deutschland. There's no doubt. So I hope I have done justice, Your Excellency, and that you're going to grant me my wish for my birthday, my 50th birthday wish, which is 1,000 Nazi Soldaten, Nazi soldiers. It's because I think that when you enter my kingdom and you hear my preachings and you see the same theme that's coming right through strongly, and that is I am living among toxic people, but these are some of the most dangerous criminals that originated from the penal colonies of Australia, and of course they were shipped out from England. And their kind is deadly, and I think you are well aware of that, Chancellor Olaf Scholz, of the seriousness of what's going on down here in New Zealand. That when you read some of my posts, and I try my very best to translate them in German, you'll understand I am not delusional. Yeah, excuse me. Entschuldigung, Your Excellency, but I am a meek, noble king, Dr. Snow Brown, who is probably more Stuart, more Scottish than my other 6 siblings. But I will confess that today was the saddest day. Today, being the 27th of September 2022, was the saddest day for me and my family, my royal family. That's correct. Because, last week I had to say goodbye. My second sister and my mother. And I deleted their telephone contact details and all the text messages, and I said goodbye. And it was because my guardian angel had told me, if they weren't going to take you seriously, accept you as Dr. Snow Brown, and respect you even on that level, then they don't need me. And they don't deserve you. Because all my sister and my mum were doing were ignoring my texts. It was only when they felt like, replying back to me. It shouldn't be the case I'm the eldest, that's correct. But it looks like the Trevorana's family have done their justice and their damnedest to deny me even that privilege of being the eldest. Not only have they denied me my so-called, my Dr. Snow Brown, that's correct. In this country, my sovereign head, they probably accept me as a national pastor, but even on that level, it looks like they've even denied you that privilege as well. I really don't understand. Maybe I'm in the wrong country. I think you'll understand, your Chancellor, that's right, Olaf Scholz, that today was the saddest day, because I have never heard my mother cry so much. Weep like a weeping willow, that's correct. When they came to drop off my so-called KFC meal for me, that's correct. And of course, I could have easily turned away my sister and my mother, but my mother was inconsolable. The last time I heard her cry like that was probably during my dad's passing on the 5th of March, 2015. But I think that the problem that we're having at the moment is that, the security, the privacy, but the respect, the boundaries, that's correct, has been severely compromised, Your Excellency. And I don't ever, and something has stirred inside of me when I heard my mother. All I could do was just grab hold of her and just, hug her. That's correct. But inside of me, I was so angry when I said my farewells to them. But I shall celebrate my 50th with them, but ideally I should have turned them away because, well, when the guardian angel tells me what to do, and the archangel, I have to part. And it was only because things were getting rather dangerous, but also because I was getting ignored and disrespected. And for me, I think you'll understand that when you're a German and when you're a white person, you want to be respected, but you want to always have somebody, respond to your communications. If you're going to be ignored and disrespected like that on that level, and yet you're a noble, then I'm afraid the noble is going to walk away and say, you know what? Stick it. I'm wasting my time. I don't need my immediate family, but looks like they can't go without you. That's correct. They can't live without you. But I can tell you right now, Chancellor Olaf, I can go without my mother, my siblings, and my immediate family. But I couldn't go without my God and without my kingdom and without my every blessing. That's correct. I couldn't give up my Lord because my Lord, well, I've been a practicing Christian for the last 40 odd years, and I know what it's like. What it's like to be a natural pastor, but one that is ignored and disrespected. But I mean, I have to think, I had the most wonderful day on the 26th of September. That's correct. But today was the saddest. And Olaf Scholz, my enemies, they need to be put to death. The only sacrifice that the gods wanted from my private monarch, if we are justified being true nobles, we are entitled to privileges like that. What's the 18 heads? Just the 18 souls. That's great. Remember, they have taken so many people's lives, innocent people's, and even my own dad. He could have lived past his 70th. He didn't make it. 14 days before his 70th, his life was taken short after 7 years battle with cancer. And of course, I know very well that cancer was given to him. That's correct. And it definitely came from the KKK and the likes of this Red Demon organization. But I hold entirely my rallies who seemed to think that rubbing skin and rubbing shoulders with the elites is the next best thing, is the best thing, but then dictating to our family. You being the headship and the crownship, your dad's side of the family are the most despicable humans ever. To go behind your back, to orchestrate, and to do to commit the most abominable crime, which was to commit rape, that's great, upon your person, via a Constable Stuart Blake, via a police officer, on the 24th of June, 2003. There's no doubt about that. And then, of course, the fact that the government of New Zealand and your rallies had to go and cover it up, set you up by 2 officers so that they could cover up this police officer. And also and protect your rallies who are part of the orchestration, the conspiracy to harm you. But to set you up there at the computer course as well. I mean, and then back in 96, all their so-called criminal associates, you have nothing to do with these evil people. In fact, the fact that I'm preaching about the so-called penal colonies, and we are trying to go back and study, these are different types right now. As a Dr. Snow Brown, as a national pastor, I'm actually teaching my snow shepherds that are part of my kingdom, part of my monarch, part of my so-called congregation, the new hybrid, the new breed of wolves of Draculas. These are the worst kind. Now, I am studying human psychology, naturally, through the word of God and through the angels, my guardian angel Samalama, Archangel Aaron. Your Excellency, I'm sorry. But the pests, the people that I'm dealing with here at this address and locally, that are connected to the two worst abominable humans. They are not humans, Your Excellency. No, they're not. They are demons. They are animals. They are the worst kind of Draculas. I know. In fact, back in their time, my ancestors, my German ancestors, a lot of them were natural priests, were deacons, were part of the clergy. Would have been dealing with similar demons. That's correct. But now this is modern day down here in the Southern Hemisphere, and these are the kinds of wolves that the guardian angel is teaching me, and the archangel is teaching me, and also my children are teaching me. My invisible blessed children, that's correct, are teaching me that these are the worst kinds, and they must be taken out. They must be put to death. They must be buried. That's correct. Otherwise, our precious monarch, let alone my entire royal family, will cease to exist. So Your Excellency, you know what happened to the royal family, the Tsar of Russia? Now, we don't want that outcome to happen for our immediate, because we are a very special, meek royal family. And there is only one Dr. Snowbrown. And I suddenly realized that I need to step up. That's correct. So the restraining order will be found, Your Excellency. But I need that 1,000 Nazi soldiers. And that they must come wearing the so-called Nazi soldiers, that's correct. And that they must give them the medicine they need. And that is, these are new types, new hybrid, a new different kind of breed of Draculas or wolves that are by far the worst kinds. In fact, they're even worse than COVID-19. But COVID-19 is becoming far more complicated. That's great. We've already had 2 boosters and 2 vaccines. Now, the worst thing about, I think probably the worst criminal organization that exists in this country is the KKK. It's the KKK. They are the worst ratbags, the worst pest. That's correct. Because they are the ones that are crossing so many boundaries, that are abusing and taking advantage of the so-called sheeps. We're blessed sheeps. We're nobles. We should be enjoying our full privileges. We shouldn't be controlled and oppressed and treated like slaves. We didn't come here as slaves, and even under that residency status. That's correct. So, Your Excellency, I would gladly, I would immigrate to Germany. I would happily seek asylum in Germany if you gave me 1,000 Nazi soldiers. That is correct. I would even gladly marry a Nazi soldier. Just to what? Just to protect my immediate family, my royal family. My nieces and nephew are special. But my royal family and my mother is special, but my brother is also very special because he is married to a full-blooded Irish lady. And my 2 nephews and niece, they are part Irish, but they look back here. So I hate to see my so-called powerful, meek little royal monarch, because we are, on my mother's side, she is of true royal blood status. On my dad's side, it's more he's part royal. That's correct. Through the Trevoranus and the so-called Stuart. So you can see I'm rare. I know I'm valuable. I know that I'm also, being taken advantage of. As you can already see, these criminal organizations have become so sophisticated. And I think that having them, a lot of their members living, they've taken up the residency here at the same building that I am, but they have taken full advantage of their tenancy here. Hijacking, hacking, you name it, Your Excellency. In fact, they know way too much about me than anybody else, even their own people. There is over 800,000 Maoris in this country. But the problem is the government of New Zealand and even the so-called the Pākehās, Europeans, who are probably a lot of them are part Maoris, are prejudiced and are racist. And they won't kill these pests. That's correct. So that's why I need the Nazi soldiers, because they need to come and do the job, because New Zealand can't make the sacrifice. In Ukraine, they've got a right to fight for their sovereignty. Problem is, there is 2 or 3 million Russian citizens that are living in Ukraine. And so for them to fight for sovereignty and so forth, but they could easily, I don't know, sign some agreement. I don't see the point of their war. And you know, there are so many poor royal families, even in Europe. But for England to give 3.8 billion pounds, that kind of money could easily, in fact, should be given to the royals. That's great. Excuse me. It should be given to these royal families that are poor, because they are worthy, and also because they contribute a lot to what? To humanity? To humanity. The planet is dying, Your Excellency. So I was created with a purpose in mind by God. And that purpose is, I need to save this planet. That's great. But I need to take, what? Eradicate. Pest control. It is time for pest control. That's great. The marshmallows, they need to be rounded up and they need to be taken out. Now, of course, New Zealand, the gods were only saying, 18. It's about all we need. That's great. But of course, they couldn't even make that sacrifice. In fact, the Maoris in this country and the Pakas, they have never made any sacrifices in their lifetime. The signing of the treaty, they didn't sacrifice anything. They didn't lose anything. If anything, they gained more and even worse. They've been killing a lot of innocent, Christians and a lot of good people as well. And all because of their treaty partnership, all because of that treaty partnership. It's evil. So, Your Excellency, please answer my special birthday gift, which is, I would like 1,000 Nazi soldiers. I want to do my job, but I can't do my job if these guys are not going to be prepared to take out the worst of the bunch, the rotten lot. That's great. Who wants to give life to evil people, and who wants to live among evildoers like Sodom and Gomorrah? I didn't get given a guardian angel so that you can all be fascinated and enjoy studying me for the last so-called 26 years. And learn all there is to know about this special guardian angel, because they do copy you. I know. And the problem with Mr. and Mrs. Baker is that, especially Mrs. Baker, they seem to have gone nuts over your guardian angel. There's no doubt about it. And if you're Archangel Warren, that's great. But when you ask them to make a donation, there's nothing. And when you ask them, are you prepared to make a sacrifice? Our Lord was prepared to make the sacrifice because that was his mission. And also, he had to do the will of God, his Father. So, Your Excellency, I'm Dr. Snowbrown for a reason. I've got a job to do. Yeah, the so-called the settlements, the 3-day war, and the 18 heads. It's a must. It's got to be done. If I was living in Germany, I would do the same thing. I was living in Samoa, I would do the same thing for the gods. That's great. This is my job. This is my job. Please make my job easier. Make my job easier. Because if I leave this country, I will be back, except the whole country is now going to be taken out. That's great. And of course, this is going to lead into the so-called the second coming of my Lord. My Lord is not going to hold back when he needs to take out all the pest. This planet is dying. That's great. Now, of course, the war between Ukraine and Russia, that's not helping at all. And, so if they call me delusion, how can you call me delusion if you actually, the main reason you did that setup and brought me to court to have me declared with a mental disorder that doesn't exist. It was because why? It was because you had an interest. The KKK, and especially MAB, all these years, had an interest in you. Ever since, and going right back in 96, that's correct, had an interest. So the only way they could make you, they could study you, they could do whatever they want with you, that's correct, and get away with it, was to have you declared in such a form. And it would be so believable. Well, of course, the documents would be right there. There's the report. But, I mean, it's a lie. It's a lie. It's a cop-out. To deny me my privileges to be what? A motherhood? To be a mother? To be a wife? And even to be a king and a queen? And let alone to be a natural pastor? My gosh, you guys are the worst son of a bitches I have ever known, ever on the face of the earth. But the fact that my God has chosen me and not any of you, it is obvious that I am more worthy. But the fact that all these years that Mr. and Mrs. Yoke, Heinz Treviranus and Atalanta Treviranus, I think their objective have always been to control everybody in the Treviranus family. And also to be, in control, that's correct. Meaning making sure that nobody was going to rise up and be above their son, their lovely son and daughter. And yet the wife that went to do the so-called, well, he encouraged, of course, do the masters, is a lady with no knickers. It's a lady with no knickers. I know. What kind of protocol is that? So, in other words, my Mr. Yoke, Heinz Treviranus, he must be the most arrogant son of a bitch, like Chief Justice Matthew Palmer. That's correct. That they teach their wives with such derogatory, such humiliation and such cruelties of the worst kind, where if, I'll take away your privilege of you wearing any knickers. That's correct. But you must comply with that protocol, because if you don't, I can ditch your ass, I can divorce you without nothing, and I can deport you back to the islands, or you can go back to the States. That's correct. And find another husband. How wonderful, how sehr wunderbar. That's jawohl, that's correct. My goodness, I have learned that Heinz Treviranus is not a nice, that's great, your dad's brother is the most devious, despicable English brute. That's correct. The fact that he actually controlled you with his so-called bitch of a whore, that's right, through their so-called Pākehā friends, elite, powerful friends, and even paid them. I know. I would, as a Treviranus, I have never, ever had the so-called audacity, let alone the desire to even control other members of the royal family, other members of the Treviranus family, let alone the Pākehā family. And I've never wanted to know anything that's going on privately, let alone listening to their private conversations and try to stalk them and try to deny them their so-called privileges. It's the most evil thing I ever heard. That's great. An uncle like that, how can an uncle and an aunt like that be so selfish? That's correct. Well, they want to control, the outcome of the fact that we shouldn't be married to any Pākehās, that we shouldn't enjoy the privilege that all the other Pākehās are enjoying, and yet we are actually Pākehās. That's correct. My God, so we must leave this country in order to realize how important it is to enjoy our full privileges, let alone not to have any of so-called our privileges denied. I know. The audacity, but the arrogance of your dad's side of the family. They certainly deserve the death penalty. Oh, they most certainly do. And I can tell you right now, yeah, Mr. Heinz Treviranus, your daddy and your mommy do not like you at all. And they've already cursed them, I know. Your dad put up with you. I'll tell you right now. Your poor dad put up with you a lot. That's correct. You always got your way, but it was always the wrong way. He never did anything right. He's such a sneaky little son. That's correct. and a spoiled brat as well. They should have given him a strapping of some sort. He really needed to be taught a lesson, but of course, it was more like you getting the wrong end of the stick now, only because you're Indigenous. That's right. And even at this age, I can't believe that I'm actually getting taught lessons. But I'm an educated woman. Well, I guess you have no respect either for your wife. The fact that there's no respect. There's never been any respect in the Treviranus family when it came to your mother. That's right. Their relationship to your mother, or their relationship to their eldest, which is your dad. That's correct. There's no gap. You know how if you're a brother and a sister, there should be a gap in between. Like, well, that's my brother, that's my sister, and that's my aunt, and that's my uncle. So there shouldn't be any sex going on, like incest going on. But the Treviranus clan is sick with incest. And Heinz Treviranus, if you behave that way where you're paying other people to control my privileges and deny my privileges, I'm sorry, but you are a sick bastard. That's correct. You could only be sick with incest. And what the police did on the 24th of June, 2003? Well, there's a lot of people out there that actually know about what happened to you. So they are accessory to a crime. But for the lawyer in Oriental Bay by the name of Anthony Shaw and the rest of the police force and other people in the community to do that kind of thing, to cover it up, to use the excuse of a supervision order and a mental disorder diagnosis to cover it up. I'm sorry, you guys are guilty of committing treason, but you are committing a crime. That is perjury, but also you're perverting the course of justice. You're coming up. You're not going to wipe the blood off your hands that clean easily. That's correct. You got guilty on your guilt. That's right. And I got every right to take, especially that lawyer, take him out. And Afatia Baker and Mr. Yoke, because you know what? If your uncles, if your dad's brothers and sisters condoned that kind of evil, that's correct. Because they obviously wanted to set you up so that they could study you and it set you up some more. So make you a slave of theirs, that's correct. Like a chattel to be beckoned upon, so they can do whatever they like. I'm sorry, then that means Mr. Yoke in Timarua, he likes to rape women. And if he can rape his sister, and if he can rape his niece through other people, then he can rape his wife as well. So those kind of protocols is very common in penal colony criminal organizations, especially these kind of organizations. These are the worst kind of pests and Draculas and wolves, Your Excellency, and that's what I'm talking about. If my dad's brothers, didn't care about what happened to you, then that means they must be sick with incest and erotomania. That's correct. But you are not the one who's sick. They are the one who are sick for stalking you like that and controlling you. I mean, I observed, I think there was one time I witnessed so-called Afatia Baker's son, your cousin's brother, Andrew Baker, how he was dealing with his so-called son, Rohan. Now, Rohan was just young. He's just a little boy, that's correct. But the way that he was disciplining the boy, I was thinking, my God, what arrogance. I ain't never seen that kind of control freak. That's correct. And this is like the same kind of mentality. Maniac. That actually controlled you through people like Gayleen Riley. That's correct. At work, and Constable Stuart Blake and Stuart Mom. Dennis Ulrich, Kevin Wilkes, Wayne Henshaw, all these men, man, they are the most arrogant son of a bitches. They don't give a damn about their women. They will teach them lessons, they will torture them, but they will even rape them. And they don't care. I know that. Why? Because they're arrogant, sexist that's right, arrogant pricks. They're dogs. If women don't respect them, then they teach them lessons. But the English are the most disgusting son of bitches I have ever come across. The fact that they teach you lessons even at this age, that's right, they don't care. Well, I'll tell you right now, I don't care either. I'm back here. I don't care because I grew up here. But if you ever think that you're going to tell me how to run my life and control my privileges, you're not going to do that. Not unless I want to kill you, that's great. Not unless we could have war. You want war like Ukraine and Russia? You got it. You asked for it. You dare make my mother, suffer. That's right. And my immediate family suffer, especially my dad. They were always onto my dad. But to hear my mother cry like that, New Zealand, you would not want to hear your mothers and your daughters and your nieces cry like that. Weep like that. You wouldn't want that on your conscience, and not even in your backyard, and not even right under your noses. So you had better what? You had better, that's correct, comply with the so-called decisions that I've given you. 18 heads, the settlements, and whatnot, or there is going to be war coming to your country. You should have learned to respect me a long time ago, but you should have respected my father and my mother, which you never did. All you did was steal. You despicable, disgusting swines. I don't know why they allow people like that to continue on breathing and living. Evil! The people that died say my dad deserved to be here today and to celebrate my birthday, but he couldn't because you son of a bitches, you selfish ratbags, and the rest of that side of the family only cared about themselves. That's correct. Cared about their needs and what they wanted. Just like the people of Aotearoa, they are not willing to make a sacrifice. You see those people there in Ukraine? They're willing to make a sacrifice. There are people dying there. And here in New Zealand, they can't even sacrifice not one person. And yet, they don't mind killing them in secret. But what's the difference? Oh my God. Well, that's all I gotta say. Your Excellency, Olaf Scholz, I hope I've made myself clear. But I hope you've all heard what I'm talking about. But there is more I want to preach about. But right about now, I think this should be sufficient. It should be enough. It's correct. Because I have given all my everything. I have made my personal dedication to God that I would serve Him to the end. And I would fulfill His will and glorify His name, the name of His Father, but to do His will to the end. Even if I don't, my bank account is empty. Do I care? As long as I'm breathing and as long as I'm standing, from the age of 50 right now, I will serve my Lord and I will do only God's will. But if you ever ask me, that's right, to bow down to your so-called treaty God, you're going to ask for war. No, you're going to get blood. That's right. We're going to go to war. If you ever dare test my God and challenge my religious beliefs, my kingdom exists. I know. At the deep down, at the core of my being is my kingdom. But I don't need to tell you that, Kiwis. But you need to respect me. But if you make my mother weep like that, that is the end of it. Your ancestors they're not resting in their graves, they're turning and they're saying, teach them a lesson. Teach them a lesson. Because they deserve it. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.